recognized borders, and so on. The resolution adopted took over the wording of what everyone agrees to be the basic international instrument, UN 242, adding 242 said nothing about Palestinians, except that they're refugees. This 1976 resolution essentially took UN 242 and extended it to a call for a Palestinian state in the occupied territories. Israel refused to attend the session. Instead, it bombed Lebanon, killing 50 people, scarcely even offering a pretext, as reported here, but greeted with a yawn. The United States vetoed the resolution. Bear in mind that a U.S. veto is a double veto. One, whatever's vetoed isn't implemented, and secondly, it's vetoed from history, as this one has been. Also another one very much like it in 1980. Well, with the Security Council banned, calls for diplomatic settlement shifted to the General Assembly, where there were annual votes with numbers like 150 to 2, U.S. Israel, sometimes 3, maybe Dominica or Palau or somebody decided to join. Rarely even ever reported. It's considered too boring. The most striking incident was in 1988, 1989. That's when the Palestinian National Council formally accepted a two-state settlement. And Israel did respond. There was a coalition government, Shimon Peres and Yitzhak Shamir. They responded with a declaration that there can be no additional Palestinian state between Israel and Jordan. Additional because Jordan already is a Palestinian state according to the coalition government. It's Shimon Peres, the peacemaker. Furthermore, the declaration stated that the fate of the territories will be settled according to the guidelines of the State of Israel. The United States immediately gave full backing to this proposal. It's the Baker Plan, James Baker, of December 1989. He added only that if any Palestinians are permitted to take part in negotiations, they'll have to accept this framework. Recall that this is the Bush 1 administration. That is the one that's condemned as being anti-Israel. It's taken the most extreme position in support of Israeli expansion and criminality in the occupied territories and against Palestinian rights, the most extreme that anyone has officially taken. Well, as I wrote at the time, for myself if you don't mind, it's as if someone were to argue that Jews don't merit a second homeland in Israel because they already had New York. Well, I should mention that the extreme racism of the Peres, Shamir, Baker, Bush stand has been recognized right here at Harvard Law School by a prominent professor, Professor Alan Dershowitz. In his book, A Case for Israel, there's a chapter called A Case Study in Hate and Intimidation, which is intended to demonstrate the power of anti-Semitism and hatred of Israel and Jews, virtual reversion to the Nazis. The chapter heading is the statement, my statement, that it's as if someone were to argue that Jews don't merit a second homeland in Israel because they already have New York. Only one change in the statement. The words "it's as if" are deleted and the context is omitted. So therefore a critique of the U.S.-Israel proposal is converted into a vicious anti-Semitic assault on Israel. Well, the deceit is commonplace and uninteresting, but what is interesting is his implicit recognition of the extreme racist stand of Washington and Israel's Labor-Likud coalition. I won't run through the rest of the dismal record. It reveals exactly one departure from U.S.-Israeli rejection, an important one, namely Taba, Egypt, in January 2001, where the 2000 Camp David proposals, the meetings collapsed. Clinton recognized that his proposals at Camp David were unacceptable to any Palestinian, and he came out with what he called his parameters in December 2000, which were vague but more forthcoming. He then stated that the U.S. would support negotiations within the parameters, and then reported that both sides had accepted the parameters, both sides had reservations. They dealt with the reservations for a week in Taba, Egypt, and according to negotiators, they were coming extremely close to a settlement. Their last press conference said that within a few more days they would probably work out everything. However, the Taba meetings were terminated abruptly by Israeli Prime Minister Barak, so the end of that. In 2002, going on with the slow Arab move towards accommodation, the Arab League went beyond its previous acceptance of the international consensus, and they called for full normalization of relations with Israel within the international consensus. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, had formally announced that Iran, quoting, shares a common view with Arab countries on the issue of Palestine. It means that Iran accepts the Arab League position, full normalization of relations with Israel in terms of the international consensus. In the Washington Post, Hamas Prime Minister Ismail Haniyeh called for his word statehood for the West Bank and Gaza, two-state settlement. And there are innumerable other examples. Perhaps the most important among them is the statement of the most militant Hamas leader, Khalid Mishal, who's in exile in Damascus, who called for, in the international press, called for the establishment of a truly sovereign and independent Palestinian state on the territories occupied by Israel in June 1967. Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah has repeatedly stated that as a Lebanese organization, Hezbollah will not disrupt anything agreed to by the Palestinians. And a very large majority of Americans also accept this outcome. So in brief, the rejectionism of the U.S.-Israeli alliance is not only consistent over the past 35 years, but is also close to unilateral, as the record shows. There's a good reason why facts are omitted in the presentations of Annapolis, or in fact most commentary. The official story that I sampled before is the exact opposite of the truth, as a look at the actual record will show. Actually, the basic contours of the settlement are well understood. They were approached at Taba. And if the Annapolis conference were at all serious, it would take off from there, and it would complete the negotiations that were coming very close to a successful resolution when Israel abruptly terminated. There are barriers to implementing the international consensus. The primary barriers have to be right here, which is a very optimistic conclusion, I think, because it means that the possibility of serious moves towards accommodation lie within our hands.